Okay guys, so I got everything set up. So channel 1 is going to the amp clamp right here in the starter, so we could get a relative compression. Channel 2 is going right here to the brake booster hose. It's going to the intake. Here's channel 3. It's going to our dipstick. And channel 4 is going off our ignition coil 1 trigger. So I got everything set up here on here. We got a 1 second time base. We're going to crank the motor. We're going to see what happens. I'm screen recording, so hopefully it captures it. So let's see. Well, that's odd. Did you hear that? We lost a cylinder during that. Huh. Well, that's exciting. You can actually see it. I've never heard that before. Whoa, we lost more than one cylinder. And our red tracers are intake pull. So we have an intake valve issue. Which one is that? What's our firing order? That's awesome. I did not expect that, guys. Looks like we might have to go to a higher voltage scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this real quick. We'll go to a slightly higher voltage scale. And then we'll compare it again. I'll change some of the voltages around too, because this red trace is a 0 to 2 volt. Looks like we might have to go to a 5 volt scale to get a clean waveform there. And I'm going to lower this coil turn on because I didn't know it was 5 volts. I thought maybe it was 12, but it looks like it's 5 volts. So I'll make that down to a 10 volt scale. So like we could zoom in and out, I think, with this. So if we see, is this actually going to show the top? No, it doesn't show the top. So we can't zoom out and get a higher voltage reading. Okay, so I'm going to quick do that and we'll be back. Okay guys, so I changed it up a little bit. So we're going to do a 5 second time base now. Up here we got 5 volts on our intake now, 2 volts on our crankcase, and 10 volts on our ignition coil control. So now let's crank it. We'll do a longer crank this time. That is weird. Separate these a little bit. Let's put our relative up here. Oh, and I forgot to say I put filtering on. Because look at all that hash. I think the starter's bad. Actually, I know the starter doesn't look good. Okay, so let's see, that's cylinder 1. Let's see what cylinder this is. This is our crankcase is looking good, but our intake pull isn't. Gotta find out what cylinder this is. Let's see. Let's see what our firing order is. One, 3, 4, 2. So we got 1, 3, 4, 2. So 1, 3, 4, 2. So 3 is our suspect issue. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the intake pulse. I mean, not the intake pulse, but the pulse sensor from the dipstick too. I'm going to move it to the exhaust and we'll do the same test again. and then we'll go in cylinder 3. But it looks like this pull right here isn't as low. See, that one isn't down as far, and then it goes up. So I'm wondering if we have like a leaking intake valve. Okay guys, so I moved the pulse sensor back here to the exhaust right here. And we're going to do the same test again. And we'll see what we get. Let's see. Did not think this was going to be this exciting. I just can't believe that it's doing this, because I did like a clear flood or something before, like using the E-scan, and I didn't have anything, so I didn't show it. And I even did this in the shop the one day, where I just had the coils unplugged and I just cranked it, and we did not get anything like this. So here we go. Let's see. Our exhaust pulses look pretty consistent. I'm trying to grab the wrong thing. Here we go. No, they don't. That one's a little different right here. Yeah, there is kind of a pattern. This thing shoots up pretty sharp here. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to get a piston overlay, like a piston chart, and we'll, let's see, let's put this up to inactive. And we'll see if we can figure out what it is before we go in cylinder with the chart. So guys, here's our piston chart. And you can see right here this rise. And that's when cylinder 3 comes up on compression, which is our low cylinder. You can see how it raises up. And then our cylinder 2 intake pull, which is right here, doesn't come down as low. And I think that's because cylinder 3 is pushing air back into the intake because the intake valve's leaking. And then you're getting this, like you're getting less of a pull here. But if you look at like the shape of it, they all look consistent. So I think that's what's happening here. So we're going to go in cylinder. We'll confirm that the valve's leaking. And then there we go. We know it definitely needs an engine. So on top of the oil consumption, we probably have a leaking intake valve. So I'm going to get my transducer put in, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, so got my pressure transducer screwed in cylinder 3 right here. Everything else is set up the same. The only thing is we're not going to have our ignition sink. We're just going to be using the in-cylinder transducer. So, with the Pico set up, we're going to crank it, see what happens. Okay, let's go see what our waveform looks like. Oh, you know what? Was I set on a 500 PSI scale? Oh, look at that, guys. You can see when the pressure comes up, boom. That the intake pressure rises at the exact same time. That's a confirmed intake valve leak. Now, let me save this real quick. Let's see. In cylinder 3. So we'll save this. Okay, so let's go down to a 250 psi scale, I think. Can we go down lower? We're at what? 180. Yeah, not gonna work. So we'll do 250. There we go. Let's look at our capture. So here we go. You can see how when this cylinder comes out of compression, our current's lower right there. Yeah, it's lower right there. And then our intake pressure rises a little bit right there. So yeah, now another thing that we're gonna quick do, I'm gonna try, see if I can show you guys, see if this will work on this car. But I'm gonna try to restrict the intake so it can't breathe, and we'll see if this zeroes to a new spot. So I'm gonna quick save this, and I'll set up for that, and we'll do that quick. So guys, what I wanted to show you isn't gonna work because I tried doing it, and then like another cylinder had dropped out. I think it was cylinder 2. Showed like no compression when I blocked the intake off. And then I tried just doing the same test again that I showed you guys, and this is what we got. So we got our intake pull right here is not as much. Like we don't have that pressure rise anymore in the intake. So it's just the valve is leaking. It's kind of the only thing that it could be. I'm trying to think of what else that we could do to prove this, other than doing like a leak down test, but we might not even find it. I had a couple cars that I showed where we had a cylinder leaking, but it only leaked when you cranked the car, not when you did a leak down test. Guess what we could do is we could start the car up. I'll put the coils in, we'll start the car up, and we'll show you guys what it looks like when it's running. And that might be the best thing to try to do here. So I'm gonna get this set up and then we'll do that. We'll do a running compression. Okay guys, we're set up to do a running compression. I changed the scaling, so we're at a 20 volt scale for the intake and a 2 volt for the exhaust, because we're gonna be creating more changes like faster, and it's going to increase the voltage. So we'll start this up. There we go. So we'll let this run. I think that's enough. We'll shut it off. Let's see what we got here. I think we might have to do a smaller time base. Yeah, I think we're going to do a smaller time base for this. Now we got it started. Save this as running. We'll go down to like a 1 second per division. Let's try this. There we go. Let's see what we got here. Let's see, do we have cursor? Yeah, see how our tower's leaning? That's an indication that we have a leaking valve. You see how it like slopes? So let's zoom out of here a little bit. There you go. You guys can see how it's leaning. Oops. That's what a leaking valve does. So it's 100% confirmed. We got a problem in the cylinder, leaking valve. Hope you guys like this. I wish there was a better way to show you guys. Yeah, I don't think there's a better way to show you guys that it's leaking. There you go. So yeah, we have a leaking intake valve. That's why it slopes that way. Hope you guys like it. See you later. So guys, I figured we'd do some bonus information. We're in cylinder 3 right now. I put my bore scope in, make sure they were up on compression, and that all the valves are sealed. So we're sealed right now. Well, I should say everything should be sealed because we suspect a leaking intake valve. So I'm going to take the bore scope out. I'll go back to the camera and we'll put a leak down tester in and we'll show you guys. So guys, we're putting the leak down tester in. It doesn't fit too well in this adapter. This is what I use for my in-cylinder pressure transducers. But the chuck on here doesn't fit too well in this, so it leaks a little bit. So we're going to put this in. We'll deflate I put a glove over the intake, so we'll see what happens. Look at that. So guys, what do you think the problem is? I think that's 100% confirmed. Can we make the glove pop? No. We're putting 60 PSI in and it's still not popping. But hopefully you guys like this. See you later.